Cody in the morning. WSM. This is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Hey, welcome in, folks on television. Here we are in the Country Music Living Room, the home of WSM Radio. What a sweet spot. Mr. Acuff's house, 1984 to 1992, he lived here. And we moved in, Charlie and I were just talking, it's our one-year anniversary somewhere around
about a year ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this was his living room. That's where we do the show every morning, looking out. If you could get our view, you'd see the entrance to the Grand Ole Opry House, where we've got a salute to Porter Wayne Wagoner going on tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. Opry 100 Honor Show, doing a few of those along the way. And that's, again, Porter Wagoner. To celebrate that, one of our favorites, Gordon Mote, is coming to see us this morning. And then a little later on, our friend David Nail is stopping by with new music. So it's great to get caught up with them. They'll be on the Assembly Food Hall stage, both of them. And we'll rewind to the stage of the Grand Ole Opry. Carrie Underwood doing Blown Away. The state fair here in Tennessee. It's the Wilson County Fair. It used to be called the Big County Fair. Then they incorporated the Tennessee State Fair in there. So it's now the Wilson County Fair, Tennessee State Fair. And that starts on Thursday, which is our normal kickoff broadcast. But because of Jeannie Seeley's memorial, we are kicking it off on Wednesday and a new location this year. That's the Shoney's location on Highway 231 in Lebanon.
Yep. And when we get to entertainment in the TV portion, folks will get to see the invitation to become a new member of the Grand Ole Opry from her next-door neighbor, Charlie McCoy, inviting Kathy Mattea. It was very, very special.
It is a beautiful thing. So you get that and a whole lot more along the way. Jeff Roberts is in master control. Our studio director, Andy Nye, is at a public library in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, somewhere.
Apparently they don't open till 9 o'clock Eastern time. So
trying to connect with us. Here's Lainey Wilson.
From WSM Radio, this is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
I don't know how he gets his own business card. Really don't. American Christian country southern gospel singer, songwriter, piano player, worship leader. Please make him welcome.
At some point, a performer's got to come in at some point.
Performer.
I mean, I know my line. It's just
Gordon Mote is in the house.
You do your line when I point to you, Charlie, and not before. This is an outrage.
Oh, gosh.
Wow, you got some cool digs over here, kids.
Thank you.
This is awesome.
Your first time at the Acuff house.
Yeah, this is really fantastic. I mean, we came right in. It was so much easier than it used to be in the old place.
Yeah.
So, congratulations on your new situation here.
Congratulations to you, because if you go to Opry.com, you'll see a picture of Gordon Mote on tomorrow night's show. Opry 100 honors Porter Wagoner, and it says Opry debut.
Well, let me just say, I've been very fortunate in my career to have played on over 100 number one songs. I've won all kinds of awards, all the things, and I'm grateful for all that. But the thing that I dreamed about the most when I was a little kid was being an artist on the Grand Ole Opry. That was a dream of mine since I can remember, and I've done so many things that I never dreamed I would do. And again, I've been very fortunate. I've been in the right place at the right time. There's a whole lot more people in this town that have more talent than I do. But for whatever reason, God's put me where he has, and so I'm very grateful. But to be debuting tomorrow night as an artist on the Grand Ole Opry is something that I am so grateful to get to do, and I am looking so forward to it. Hopefully they'll invite me back if I don't mess up too much.
But you've played it many times as an accompanist, right?
I have. I mean, for a lot of artists, I remember the very first time I did it was with Lee Greenwood back in '93, and Faith Hill. It was her first time to be on the Opry that night, and she had the number one single, Wild One.
Oh, wow.
That was her single at the time, and it had just gone number one. But I remember that. I'll never forget that night. It was such a sweet, sweet time. And then, but about 1999, I think it was, over Christmas holiday time, Porter called me, and I had been working with Porter a lot in the studio over the few years. And he called me and he said, "What would you think about being a wagon master?" And I said, "Well, that'd be fantastic." He said, "You'd play the Opry with me every weekend, and we'd have a big time." And we really did. I did that for about 3 years, and I was getting really busy in the studio around that time, and so it was really hard to continue to do it. And then I would come back and do whatever he felt like was a special thing, television or whatever. But those years with Porter, both before I started playing the Opry with him and even after I didn't do it, were so special. We lost him in 2007. We were actually working on a new album when he passed away. He was always in the studio. He loved being in the studio. He's one of those cats. He's kind of like Bill Gaither or one of these, these older guys that just have such creative energy, and they inspire you because they want to continue to create music. And so anyway, I'm so glad they're honoring Porter. He would have been 98 tomorrow. Wow. And it was.
I think he and Buck Owens share a birthday, if I'm not mistaken.
And as long as Buck Owens and Keith Bilbrey are alive, I won't be the ugliest man on the planet. I've heard him say that so many times.
Oh, that's great.
You're sharing the stage with Red Akins, Mandy Barnett, the Isaacs, whom you know so well.
Yeah, well, I know all these
Chuck
people.
Mead, of course, Catch Secor, who's doing a solo thing as the front man of Old Crow Medicine Show, a member. Connie Smith, Marty Stewart, and Gordon Mote.
Marty Stewart.
You mentioned Porter was working on new music at the time of his passing. You got to be a part of an incredible album called Wagon Master that Marty Stewart produced that turned out to be his final album.
Yeah, that's right. And Marty, man, I mean, he's just killer, of course. Got to work with Marty a few months ago on a Jake Worthington song that Marty wrote called I'm the One, that Marty and Jake wrote. It was good to see Marty again, but man, he is such an iconic figure as well, in our business. And he and Connie are always at the top of their game, and it's always great to be around Marty. But he did such a great album on Porter and really represented what Porter was. And I think, now that I'm producing a lot, I think that that's the trick. To do everything you can to make sure that you are creating the very best representation of the artist that you possibly can. And Marty did that.
Yeah, Marty told me we were doing, I was hosting on GAC in those days. We're doing the Master Series, and our venue was the Country Music Hall of Fame Precious Jewels exhibit area. And so I remember Porter, he was sick and he was very weak.
Yeah.
But Marty was with him and coaching him along, and he said he called Billy Bob Thornton to play drums, and he asked him if he knew who Porter Wagoner was. And he said, do I know who he is? When we were kids, we cried when he signed off. Which I always thought was such a great testament to, and in that same moment, probably as sweet, as bittersweet as it is, a moment as I've ever had was in 2007. I found out I was going into the Country Radio Hall of Fame in 2008, in that class, 2008. And I got a chance to go to his bedside. He was just very, very ill. And Deborah Jean, his daughter, who's such a dear friend of ours. And
the Wagon Mistress.
Yes.
She
She got me in. They allowed me to come tell him that just how influential he was for me as a child, watching him and going, I don't know where that is, but I want to go there and be a part of that in some way. Because, his show had announcers.
Oh, yeah.
And all the comedy, Spec Rhodes comes to mind. And,
I watched it. I mean, we all did. I mean, all those shows.
Gadsden?
Yeah, Alabama, grew up in the Gadsden area. And so, we didn't have cable back in those days. We didn't have satellite TV. We didn't have anything. But man, we had those country television shows, Bill Anderson and Porter, and of course Hee Haw and the Lawrence Welk Show and all these variety shows.
Did you have Stu Phillips?
We
and
didn't
the
have
Wilburn brothers.
We didn't have the Stu Phillips Show in our market. Yeah, somehow.
Because all those shows they were in syndication and would run back to back to back. In Kentucky, growing up as a preacher's kid, I mean that was Saturday afternoon, just back to back to back.
We had the Wilburn brothers. Though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. See, I got none of that growing up in Providence. So when I moved to town and RFD started re-airing all of those, and it was Porter, Wilburn Brothers, and then Pop Goes the Country.
Pop
with,
Goes the Country.
Yeah, with well, it was Tom T. and then Ralph for a while. The ones they were showing.
Okay.
And those were all new to me, and it's like, whoa! It's kind of like seeing Gone with the Wind for the first time as an adult. It's an interesting perspective on looking back on those, but seeing them for the first time.
So what did you have in Rhode Island growing up? Like Portuguese programming?
We had candlepin bowling. We had community auditions from WBZ
In Boston. No wonder you moved down here.
Yeah. Bowling was big, like local bowling shows. I remember that as big. Of course, we had the
riveting television.
Oh yeah, I tell you.
Hey, I'll tell you something funny on the Alabama bus, because I travel a little bit with the group Alabama. We were just in Illinois and Indiana over the weekend, and they had just huge crowds. It's amazing to watch those guys. They can still draw like they do, and those songs are so iconic, and everybody's singing along. But what do we do on we've got 4 or 5 buses out there, according to what weekend, but we've got a couple of band buses, and on our bus, the thing is to find all the hee-haw episodes we can find on YouTube and stream them on TV, and that's just back to back. We just watch. I don't. Again, riveting television. What do you boys do going down the road? You guys partying? Yeah, man, we watch Hee Haw, man.
Gordon Mote, Opry debut is a part of a salute to Porter Wayne Wagoner as you watch us on Circle Country. Porter is over your shoulder there on the screen. With the best pompadour this town has ever known.
Oh,
people.
sure.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Every hair is perfect.
Oh, gotta have it.
So talk to me about Carroll County Accident and what you remember from Porter and his song.
Every time he would introduce it, he would say, "This was Song of the Year, 1969. And man, every time we played it, it didn't matter if it was on the Opry or if it was a big festival. You know, it was interesting. We would do about 10, 15 shows as a band, and we would travel, go do them, and he would play, he'd play some casinos and things like that, but he would also play these huge country music festivals. They would book him on these festivals with all these young artists going on as well. And I remember that these crowds, they just wanted to see him. And they would go absolutely bonkers when he would come out on stage. And when we would do Carroll County or we do the hits, man, they would clap just like if he had been playing the Grand Ole Opry. He'd sing, Carroll County's pointed out is kind of square. And everybody just go crazy. It was awesome. It was like he was a young cat, It was awesome.
Beautiful. Bob Ferguson wrote this song. Boy, you talk about a story song for all time in any genre.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than Porter Wayne Wagoner.
Buck Trent on the electric banjo.
There you go.
This is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
Hey, your sweet wife is with you this morning, Gordon Mote, and has a birthday, I understand, that she shares with John Conway.
I don't know why I keep on believing you need me when you prove so many times that it ain't true. Yes, it's her birthday today. Sorry, I just went into that. I didn't mean to. Yes, it's her birthday today, and I will be younger than her for 2 months and 2 weeks.
Where'd you meet?
We met at Belmont University. I tell everybody it was love at first sound when we met. But we just celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary, and of course she, along with the rest of my family, will be at the Opry tomorrow night. We're really looking forward to that. And I wanted to say, too...
And her name is Kimberly, by the way.
Kimberly, yes, absolutely. And if you listen to some of my music, you'll hear her singing a lot, backgrounds, and we've actually done a few duets down through the years. And she's my pretty little girl singer. But she's amazing in every way, and so I'm glad to have her in studio with me. She is the prettiest Uber driver you've ever seen. I go from here to the studio, and I told her, I said, I'm sorry you're running around like crazy on your birthday, but that's just what we do, and she's the most amazing person on the planet. So I'm very grateful to get to share. We've done all kinds of crazy stuff, and we got 3 children. And
Samantha, Parker, and Ashton?
That's right. Ashton's a senior in high school, and Parker is teaching at CPA. And then Samantha is about to give us our first grandson, our first grandchild.
So what a small world if Kelly Sutton's daughter, Kelly would normally be here on Monday, but she had something to take care of. If her daughter Reese was taught by your son.
Wow.
That would be crazy, right?
Yeah. They happened before she graduated.
Indeed.
Was she a sophomore?
Junior this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Barker's a Bible teacher at CPA and also coaches football and baseball, and he's a very busy boy. So,
Oh, that's great. Speaking of age difference between spouses, I'm 12 years older than my wife, and you'll love this story. Gordon, the first time we went on a date, we were just talking, and she goes, "Oh, what was your first concert?" And I'm like, "Oh, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Joe Ely was the opening act. Providence Civic Center, Hard Promises Tour, August 1981." And she goes, "Oh, 1981. I was 5." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we're not having this discussion anymore."
yes. Wow, that's crazy.
So when you left Belmont, correct me if my memory serves, Lee Greenwood heard you, saw you someplace.
At my senior recital.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
And that was your breakthrough as
That
far
was,
as getting into the business.
I have to say that most everything I've done in my career, I can connect the dots to Lee somehow. Lee really flew my flag high, believed in me, always thought that I would be a session guy, always thought that I'd be, one of those first call guys. That's what he always said. And of course, I couldn't see it. I couldn't believe it back in those days. But he was so kind and really believed in me. And so we still have a great relationship to this day. And can you believe at 83 he sings the way he does?
Well, I know.
It's unbelievable.
And everybody needs, in this town, in this business, needs an encourager.
That's true. And I try to be that for these young people that I see coming along when I feel like they've got incredible talent and good work ethic. And, because somebody flew my flag. And so I always try to pay that back. And
What would have been your first paying gig with Lee? Do you remember?
we played in I think it was Newport, Arkansas on the 12th of June. And then the next night, we played the G.O. Celebrity Theater, the Chevy at Opryland. We played that for 2 days.
Did lots of shows there.
Oh, my gosh,
Hosted a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Johnny and June is one of the ones that comes to mind, one of my favorites. And,
Well, Alabama played that a bunch, too.
and somebody else you toured with, Trisha Yearwood.
Oh, I
played
love
the Chevy G.O.
Trisha.
Theater.
Her new record's killer, by the way.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The
and
Mirror, by the way.
if you don't have it, make sure you all streaming music services. I'll tell you what's really cool about tomorrow night, talking about the Opry. I was just thinking about this over the weekend. The staff band is so amazing, and I've worked with all those guys in the studio. But Larry Paxton, who's the bass player, he played on my very first top 10 record, which was a song called Honesty by Rodney Atkins. And then Eddie Bears, who'll be playing tomorrow night, he played with me on my very first #1 country song I ever played on, Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning, Alan Jackson.
Oh, wow.
So there's so many little things that make tomorrow night special for me. Of course, I tour with Alabama, so Jason Roller and Tony King are on our tour, and they're, so amazing. And all of those guys I know very well, so it's really cool to share that with your friends, too.
I also find it interesting that you have toured with Tanya Tucker and the Gaither Vocal Band.
Yes. Polar opposites.
I was going to ask.
Life has its balances, Bill.
What differences come to mind?
Oh, well. I did the CMA Awards a couple years ago, and Tanya was one of the artists that I played for on the awards show, and I thought, and I even said to somebody, I wonder if she'll remember me. Because you just never know. It has been a long time since I'd seen her. I'd worked with her in the studio, but I don't even know. I feel like maybe I overdubbed on the track. But anyway, she came right to me and hugged me and said it was glad to see me. She was glad to see me. So this town is such a good town. It's a lot of musicians, a lot of singers, but people don't forget you. And it's a small town when it gets right down to it. But she was always sweet. And
now she's got a rightful place in the Hall of Fame. So.
I got to tell you, do we have 30 seconds to tell you a quick Tanya story? So I got fired from that gig. I did, because she wanted to, do something different. I don't think I got fired because I wasn't I didn't play well for her, because she always liked what I played. But I think she was missing her old keyboard player, and so I got fired. And our old road manager with Lee Greenwood took the gig with Tanya and brought me on. And so he called me on a Monday. Kip Engel was his name, and he said,
Tanya's wanting to make some changes.
I said, really?
He said, yeah, and you're one of the changes.
What a gracious firing.
I'll never forget that. So we've all got stories. If you've been here long enough, you've got lots of stories.
Well, and you're headed out to Alaska with the Gaithers.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, and that wonderful tour they do out
Yeah,
there.
we leave Saturday and we'll go do that for a week. I tell you, it is my schedule. Somebody said, "Man, it must be stressful doing all the things you do," because I'm still so fortunate to get to play on a lot of sessions and do the thing and still be somewhat relevant, I guess. And a lot of young artists, get to work with that, they say, I used to listen to you when I was a kid, but, still glad to be, the producers trust me and all that, but also I'm producing a lot. So like it is stressful to take a week to go out of town. Mm-hmm. But I told somebody just the other day, I said, it's a whole lot more stressful when the phone's not ringing. And I remember what that was like too. Yep. So to be my age and to still be working, I'm so grateful to this town for what it's given me. And I try every day to be as relevant, as fresh as I can be. Not to say, well, I've done all this. I don't ever want to phone it in. I watch guys like Paul Franklin and Brent Mason and all these cats at Glenn Worf and Eddie and all the guys that were doing it at such a high level when I came up and are still doing it at such a high level, and they never phone it in, and they're all Hall of Fame guys. And so, I want to be that guy. I want to keep doing it.
Well, on socials, you and Vince Gill have been so entertaining. I don't know what you're working on together, but you got to find this, people. Gordon Mote and Vince Gill doing a cover of Chicago's Saturday in the Park.
Well, it was part of my 4-note challenge. If you go to my Instagram page and follow me on Instagram, or we do Facebook and the whole bit. Mm-hmm. But I have this series called the 4-Note Challenge. I also have a series called the Song of the Day. I've got a lot of different things. But Vince and Vince working on a new record, and we were at his house, and I said, hey, why don't you do the 4-Note Challenge? And so he did a couple of different ones. He picked, and he said, you're an idiot if you don't play Saturday in the Park. So anyway, it's funny. We try to make a lot of things comical.
Well, the funniest one is when he does the same 4 notes.
Yes,
and you
4
say
octaves.
And he said, well, you didn't say that, damn it.
Yeah. Vince is one of the coolest cats ever. Like, we all want to be like him, because he doesn't realize he's Vince Gill, and that's the coolest thing about him. He's so incredibly talented, and yet he's so down to earth. And, that's what we need in our town, and we sure have a lot of that. I can't think of any artist that I've worked with that's not fun to work with. So
we honor Porter Wagoner at the Grand Ole Opry tomorrow night on his, what was the birth anniversary night?
Well, he was born in 1927, so if my Alabama math serves me right, he'd be 98 tomorrow.
Wow. And Gordon Mote makes his Opry debut as a part of that. Find out more, full lineup, including the Isaacs. And Ben is listening. Ben's listening this morning.
Well, I love the Isaacs. Did you hear him with Jamie O'Neill over the weekend? That was pretty fantastic. Yeah. I think you were hosting, weren't you, Charlie?
I was, yeah.
I was listening to that. We were I listened to the Opry all the time. I did when I was a kid. I had that little transistor radio under my pillow. You know that Lionel Cartwright song, I watched it all
He and Don Schlitz wrote that, yeah.
Well, that was me. I was that kid.
Yeah.
And so to be on tomorrow night as an artist, having played it so many times with other artists, but getting to be an artist on it is a dream come true. And so thanks to Dan Rogers and all the people who made that possible. So.
Well, speaking of your work with Alabama, here we go with Walking Each Other Home.
Yeah.
Gordon Mote, Alabama, all over the world on WSM Radio and watching worldwide. Circle Country Television at circlecountry.com, or link to your favorite streaming platform from there.
More Coffee, Country, and Cody is on WSM.
Our longtime friend, good to see him always, David Nail, is on the Assembly Food Hall stage, and he's looking for investors to help he and his family buy a home in Aspen, where he just visited. The average sale price in Aspen these days is what?
$15 million.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it was the most insane. Like, it was one of those things where, like, I'm eating and I do this everywhere. Like, I'll just, realtor.com, whatever, like wherever I'm at, just curious. And it was one of those things where, like, I was like, this can't be real. Like, this. And I just kept blowing it up because it just was so astronomical. And I mean, there was like $150 million property. I mean, it obviously had acreage, but I mean,
You said there was one that was 700 something square feet, and it was
6.5 maybe million.
Wow, makes Manhattan seem like a bargain.
doesn't it?
I mean, it was true that I've got a buddy who had just been there, and so I called him and I said, "Man, when you said you were there, I just obviously didn't grasp the significance of you and your, special friend going there." And he said that literally he had gone through like a friend, and he's very successful. He's the head baseball coach at the University of Texas, but he said that he had a couple of. He said you can't even get in without knowing somebody to dinner there. It's like so exclusive. And he said so he went through a couple of connections and they got him in. He said, "Look, I didn't realize though that by the time I got out of there, a dinner for two was like $400 or $500 a night." He's like, "I'm glad we got a deal on our like Airbnb or wherever they stayed." And I was just like, "Man, I hope it's free."
Did you run into any other country stars while you were out there?
No, I didn't see. Ironically, I didn't see anybody famous. But I happened to go in the same little market that he had been in previously for his trip, and he said that he ran into Kevin Costner there. He said I was there for like 45 minutes, long enough to eat lunch and leave. I was well on my way. I had no business there,
So what took you to Aspen to begin with?
We were just driving through on our way to this show. We were in Colorado Springs the night before, and we were on our way to, I think, Rifle, Colorado, which is kind of on the western edge of the Rockies. And so we were sort of advised to go that way as opposed to go to Denver and over because I guess, and we've had some history on I-70 through there where some traffic issues and stuff. So it was an entertaining drive, and the 30 minutes, I guess, south leading into Aspen was arguably some of the scariest roads I've ever been on in my entire life. Just two-lane and no guardrail.
Sheer drops.
I mean, like I couldn't look. I was literally staring like right in front of the car, and some of my guys are making comments, and I'm just like, shut up. I'm like, this is the one time in my life where I wish we didn't have peripheral vision because I could just sense it. But yeah, I literally called my wife and I said, if anybody ever asks us or suggests that we should go to Aspen for vacation, just politely say negative. Like it's literally never happening.
Unless they're paying.
Yeah, unless it is all expenses paid, It was just, I mean, I've heard, all the stories about like, the celebrities and stuff that go there and have places, but I mean, that's just another world, I mean, like I've seen some expensive properties, but that was another level.
Long way from Kennett, Missouri. Huh?
Oh my God! It's hilarious. I just went back home for the first time in forever on the 4th of July, and I'm super nostalgic. I love where I'm from. Super proud of it, and so as my kids I've shown them all this before, but they're so small. I want to make sure and always sort of remind them of where I grew up and the houses and stuff. And I showed them the first house, and obviously it's, pretty old, and it had the neighborhood had kind of run down a little bit. But my oldest daughter was just, she was the one and only time in her life she was speechless. Like she was literally just staring at it. She's like, "This is where you were born?" I was like, "Yes." And so
did you know Abraham Lincoln?
She goes, "How much did the house cost?" So I said, "I have no clue." I said, "You can ask Papa when we get back home." And I figured it was low, but my father didn't hesitate. He said we bought it for $14,900, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what year. I was born in '79, so obviously it was probably a few years before that. But I literally almost passed. I was like, what in the world? And I've always said, like, where I grew up, for whatever reason, it's sort of like the economy. Like, if you want to escape inflation or whatever, like, just go to Kennett, Missouri, because it's like most of the people are finding reasons to leave, and so fewer people are obviously moving there.
And not a lot of people stay when they get out of high school, probably, right?
I feel like my my sort of class that started a little bit, but that was the thing that I loved about it was, whoever the lawyers were in town, most of the physicians. I mean, some of the physicians, I guess, would come from other places, but your school teachers, your mailman, all those jobs, they may go off to college, but they almost all came back.
How
and
about that?
And they almost all would a lot of them like high school sweethearts, and I was always shocked at how many of them, especially the guys, they'd marry somebody from another place and somehow talk them into coming back, because I love my wife, she's from outside of Memphis, and I've told her all the time, I would move back in a millisecond, and she just looks at me like I'm crazy, literally there was no way in the world that my wife would have ever married me if that was on the table.
Now, Aspen, different story. Different story.
And
but that's the thing. I tell people this a lot of times when we play live. I said, I've been so lucky, as a result of choosing this for an occupation, and that's truly the thing that outside of like meeting and playing, obviously, is just the travel aspect of it and getting to see places that I would have never in a million years been able to see. I've been to New York and played New York City several times. My father, who's 76 years old, just went for the very first time, and had my niece my niece is in college. She's in a band, and she got to play Carnegie Hall, and so he traveled up there to see that. And had that probably never happened, he would have never gone. And I tell people, like, prior to this, there was this mindset of like, that's just places they talk about on TV. Those are just like TV sets. That's not real. And you just truly, I feel like, unfortunately, there are so many people that, and there's a lot of towns like this, but people where I grew up that, they're never going to see some of these places. And I just feel like it's such a tragedy, because you just never really can, truly grasp the significance of like the Rocky Mountains or whatever, how just gorgeous they are. Until you see it in person.
You moved to Nashville, you come to WSM and the Grand Ole Opry, and all these people that you have played for decades or watched on television for decades, all of a sudden you meet them and time passes and you become friends. And it's like, again, never in a million years as a little boy growing up would I dream, like tomorrow night, honoring Porter Wagoner, with whom I became friends. But, I mean, that unheard of to think about meeting Porter Wagoner.
I sort of am uncomfortable telling stories or talking about it, with people outside of the business, because you sort of have this feeling of like I'm bragging or I'm like boasting or whatever. But you do sort of get so used to those interactions and stuff that. But that's one of the things, like I never take for granted. And a lot of times when I do tell the stories, I sort of catch myself like, do you even realize like what you're saying? Like who you're talking about,
Well, and to your credit, because it's easy to go on tour and see nothing. Sound check, bus, hotel.
Exactly.
Just lather, rinse, repeat. So you got to make an effort to want to see stuff, and it's such a waste to not see it.
We had a unfortunate but fortunate incident a few years ago where we were headed out for it was one of the first 3-week runs I had done since my twins were born, who are 9, so in almost 10 years. And literally we were driving to the airport to fly out to California to meet this bus. And we get a call that not only is the bus is not going to be in California, it's in Arkansas, broken down. And so we don't know what we're going to do. We're like, what are we going to do the first week or whatever? And so there's, it's impossible. It's right after COVID, so everybody's touring. There's no buses. And that's the unfortunate thing about being out west. So many of the places are so far apart. It's really impossible logistically to do it in a car or a van or whatever. And so we had to do somehow the first 4 or 5 shows in 2 minivans and like a U-Haul truck pulling our trailer. Our trailer was already out there. And so I'll never forget, we did like Northern California up to out Tacoma, Washington, and then we came back down to Western Oregon, and then we had a day off, and then we had to get to like Montana. So we had to drive from like Bend, Oregon on a day off to like, I think the halfway point was like Spokane, Washington. And when I say, like, people are not going to believe this, but like I have witnesses in the car, like I literally like cried half of the trip. We'd never toured Eastern Oregon, but so I obviously would have never seen that even if like we weren't sleeping on a bus. But it was like beyond beautiful. It was just another, like, it was like a spiritual experience. I was just like, I've never seen anything like this. You know, so, like, I grew up surrounded by cotton fields as flat as a board, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was just, I wanted to stop every 15 minutes and take a picture. And I just, wanted to call my parents. I wanted to call all my friends and just be like, man, this is like, it's such a shame that, like, all I learned about it as a kid was the state capital of Oregon. It's like, they stopped after that.
What's
there was
the state capital of Oregon, Charlie?
Salem. Everybody knows that.
Salem. Brother, come on.
Thought I had it.
Thank you for being my lifeline, David
Thought I
Nail.
had it.
Well, I knew it wasn't Portland.
Yeah, those are, but like a lot of those states up there, like it's they're very tricky. What the state capitals are, because it's not the obvious choice. You know?
Like Olympia in Washington,
Alaska.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks it's
Juneau.
Yeah,
in Alaska.
You're right.
Well, you and Dave Barnes have worked together on a song we play a lot on WSM Radio these days called Hotel Keys, and you're going to do it for us live this morning.
Yes.
Did you write it?
I did write it. I wrote it with Dave. Ironically, I think it's 13 years ago now, and it's funny, like we're talking about traveling. I remember the first 4 to 6 months after my first single came out, I would call my manager at the time, and I was so depressed that we weren't working as much as I felt like certainly I wanted to, and that we needed to be. And they would just always say, hey, just be patient. Like, there's going to come a time where you're going to be like, hey, I'd like a week off, And I'll never forget, probably midway through Red Lights Climb up the chart, it started, and it literally didn't stop for 2.5 years. And it went sort of from, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all these places for the first time, to I would come home and my wife would say, where all were you? And I was like, well, I would remember the night before. But sort of the 2 or 3 places before that, I was like, I think we were in the Carolinas, I don't know. And so I remember sitting down with Dave, and I just told him sort of that mindset, I was just like, it's so crazy. I said, I feel like all I have to sort of show for my week at the end of it is just this pocket full of hotel keys that I take out of my jeans. It's a lot like guitar picks and stuff.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me like, oh my gosh, that's great.
We're writing that today.
And we wrote it, and he recorded it first pretty soon after we wrote it. And it was my first outside cut by another artist, so I was super thrilled. And I have to be honest, I knew of the song, but I hadn't heard it in forever. And I certainly didn't know that back then we had done a version that not only I sang on, but he sang on. And for about 2 weeks, we couldn't find any sort of record of who played on it, what studio, who the engineers were. And so there's a classic case of you have to obviously know all that before you could potentially release something. But the suspense of it was every other day we're like, should we put this out? To the end of the 2 weeks, we're like, we've got to put this out, So it was super cool, and Dave didn't remember doing it. And it's just very, I feel like, for whatever reason, I feel like all of my songs I've released, there's always sort of a significance to why. And I feel like, especially after COVID, not working for 2 years and then getting back out on the road, you sort of experience it all over. It's like being a new artist all over again. So, sorry, that was a super long story.
No.
But
now we know. Now we know the backstory on Hotel Keys, David Nail. David Nail live on the Assembly Food Hall stage. And the next hotel keys for you, Petoskey, Michigan on Friday the 15th and LaPorte, Indiana on Saturday the 23rd. And then you'll be sleeping in your own bed when you play Americana Fest here in Nashville, which is September 9th through the 13th.
Absolutely.
Your wife would be really happy with that.
She will.
Take a break. Come back. More with David Nail. Stay with us.
From WSM Radio, this is Coffee, Country, and Cody.
A couple of quotes on our special guest, David Nail, and we're going to feature why. Work with Aubrey Sellers coming up here in just a little bit from the Assembly Food Hall stage. One was a Washington Post. It's on your website. As impressive as it felt, David Nail's robust, resonant tenor just might be country's most limber and soulful this side of Ronnie Dunn.
Dang. I didn't know my father wrote for that paper.
And our late friend Chuck Dauphin once said, you could turn an ordinary lyric and arrangement into a tour de force. Simply put, he is not one of us.
Oh,
Wow.
Huh?
That's
I
awesome.
miss Chuck.
Yeah, he was always a lot of fun to talk to. You know, you do so many, especially early on, interviews like that, and they're obviously most of them are on a phone, and so you don't really see like this person. But I remember, you know, whether it was like every album cycle or for whatever reason when he would call, you know, it was just like, oh, we're friends. You know, we're friends.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. I didn't have to sort of do a sales pitch. You know,
Gotcha,
like
gotcha.
he sort of knew, you know, who I was, and it was just like talking to your friend, you know, on the phone.
Well, I was trying to remember how long we'd known each other. It's 23 years since Memphis was that first single. And I remember you coming and doing it live on a morning show. And I can't remember the occasion, but we were at the Ryman. And you were part of a cast of characters that we had in that morning. It may have been the same morning that John Conley, Earl Thomas Conley, and Con Hundley were on. I want to say you were on that same show. But,
Wow.
But that sitting there on the stage of the Mother Church 23 years ago.
It's wild. It's
Yeah.
wild. It's crazy. You
So
know,
what was happening prior to signing with Mercury?
not a lot. You know, I moved here in the fall of '97. I went to Aquinas College. They still had sports. I came to play baseball, but really sort of to, you know, sort of see Nashville, experience Nashville. And of course, coming from Kenton, Missouri, it's funny, you know, back then, Nashville, I was so overwhelmed. I was like, what in the world am I thinking?
And Aquinas was known for its nursing program.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
It was a basketball team, baseball team, and a bunch of nurses, literally. And I didn't grow up Catholic, and it's a Catholic school. And literally, like the first 2 months I was there, they made an announcement that they were doing away with all athletics and going to like become like a 4-year liberal arts school. So it was sort of like, well, I don't have to make a decision on like baseball or music. This sort of makes it for me. But Nashville was so overwhelming. I moved back home and went to college at Arkansas State for about 1.5 years, and then moved back, I guess, in the fall of 2000. And then 8 months after I'd moved back, I was sort of, you know, like, this is not in the cards, not happening. I need to, you know, what am I thinking? I need to go back and, you know, finish my degree. And I met through two friends that played baseball at Belmont University. I met Jenny Stegall, who was Keith Stegall's daughter, and I think maybe within a week she heard me sing, and the next Monday I was playing for her dad, played 2 songs. He kicked me out of his room. I found out later he called Luke Lewis, who was the president, and he said, "Can you come back in an hour?" And Luke came. I came back, sang those same 2 songs, and they more or less signed me on the spot.
Wow.
It was crazy. Literally, like about to move. I called my mom that at that Applebee's in Berry Hill, and I was like, I didn't even know how to preface it. I was like, "Mom, I think I might have just gotten a record deal," and she's like, "What?" Like, you know, there had been no discussions or anything. Like,
I was going to say, did you read the contract? Did you have any professional help at all?
It was classic case. Like, literally, like I don't know the specifics. It was like handshake. Like, you know, we're gonna work together. And I remember, like, my mom was just like, what? You know, I had literally been talking to them about like where I was gonna go to school, where I was, you know, apartments and stuff.
Coming back.
So
yeah.
she's like, what? I mean, literally speechless.
Give us backstory with you and Aubrey Sellers in this song that we're going to feature called Why.
Why is a song that I wrote for that initial record on Mercury that never came out. And I'm very thankful because I obviously had no clue what in the world I was doing at that age. But Why was really the one song that I was a little bitter that had never come out or was never heard. And I would play it sporadically. And people would ask about it because it had gotten on, I guess eBay and stuff. People got that like promotional disc. And so I'll never forget, I didn't really know, like, even though I was on Universal later and then left again, I didn't know what the rules and laws were as far as like re-recording stuff. And so I asked a few questions about a year and a half ago, I guess, and just said, man, I'm trying to bridge the gap between what I just did and what I'm doing next. I said, I'd love to do this. And I sort of got the green light, and so we decided to do it. So a song that I guess was, written 23 years ago, recorded 23 years ago, we decided to do, hey, this is what this song sounds like when a 40-year-old man sings it, and not a 21-year-old guy. And then I know Aubrey, her stepfather, Frank Liddell, who's produced a lot of, I guess, all my records, and obviously know her mother, Leanne Womack, and she had sang on a couple of songs of mine before, and so I really wanted a female voice, and she has such a, I hope she's not offended by this, she has such a sweet and unique, a lot like her mother, voice.
Oh, you can hear her mom in there.
And I just really felt like it would add something, and was fortunate enough that she agreed to, and she's awesome. I think she's on the road with Parker McCollum now, singing backup.
Good for her.
She's a great, like, her own like artist stuff is awesome. So that's something I've always taken a lot of pride about. I just always really put a lot of time and effort into like wanting it to be less of a background singer and more of a part and more of a feature sort of thing. And I've been lucky to have a lot of people, and she's one of those.
David Nail, thank you so much for coming to see us always.
Absolutely.
And David, again, this weekend in Michigan and next weekend in Indiana. He'll be back in Nashville, Americana Fest. That's happening next month.